Are you at home? A6DD. Well, that's good. You never know. We never know what's going to happen. And I don't know, I think there's some sort of contest going on HF. Do you know what it is? Okay. Yeah, I don't know either, of course. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. There was yesterday at I think about this time there was a big, huge blowout on the sun, but it was on the backside again. There was a monster blowout like we had about 6 months ago now, or maybe longer. So this has been another huge blowout, but not on the right side. Otherwise, we would have 6 meters opening in a few days. Go ahead. Yeah, we've had 2 monster situations, and both times on the backside. So it'll eventually happen when we least expect it. Yeah, you've told me about that, but I've never heard it, or I don't recognize it in any case. Okay. Well, there may be something. I'm not saying it's real or not real. I haven't the faintest idea. I'm just saying I've never seen that correlation, but that's all right. I've never seen everything yet. Go ahead. That's right. That's right. Well, that's the. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's. You got to have a radiating clothes hanger. Oh, our BSing is the same thing. We'll break for anybody out there.
Howdy, neighbor. KN6SHI. Oh yeah, I hear Will, no problem, and I hear you, and just sitting here eating my dinner, and heard you guys in there and just waving a hand. So, all righty, man. Cruising the bands. Have a good day, a weekend out there. Oh yeah, for sure, man. We check to monitor this band once in a while. No problem there. So, all right, Will, waving a hand, and to you too, young lady. KN6SHI, Claire.
All right. Well, have a good evening. and we'll catch you tomorrow. Okay, all right. Well, you know, we have these layers up in the sky. They were arbitrarily labeled. Some 100 years ago, some of the very first radio scientists sent signals straight up and had the signals come back down like radar. It was this radar before there was radar. And they timed them, and they would move frequency and send the signal straight up and then measure how long it took for it to come back down. And they they discovered that there were a couple of layers, actually 3 layers that they knew of at the time. And they arbitrarily didn't start at layer A or layer B, or they started towards the middle of the alphabet. So they labeled the one layer E layer, and the next layer F layer, and the layer below the E layer they labeled D layer, and that was it. So you had the D layer, the E layer, the F layer. It was, I don't know, I guess a decade or so later, they discovered there was an F2 layer, but they didn't call it a G layer. It should be a G layer up there, but anyway, it's called an F2 layer. That is what you find on 10 meters. Is almost always F2 layer that you're hearing there on 10. But the other layers do refract the signal some as well. So you can hit combinations of the different layers bending a little bit, where normally the F2 layer wouldn't be enough by itself to send a signal back down to Earth. You might get a little help out of the E layer, bending it some, and then the F1 layer bending it some, and then finally the F2 layer bending it all the way back down to Earth. There is some bending that even happens in the D layer, but normally we don't even talk about that. So any one layer by itself, not good enough, not ionized enough to bend the signal all the way back to the Earth, but with the addition of each layer doing its part, you might end up with a signal coming back that wouldn't come back otherwise. And we call that multi-mode or multi-layer propagation, or sometimes when it's really, really weak and it's only just barely getting bent, and we call it scatter, because when something scatters, it does scatter forward, but also kind of, bounces in all directions, including backwards. So you can get scatter signals from the lower layers to get you up in the F2 layer and get a signal back. But when it's that, they're usually extremely weak. But that's what the Fox Tango 8 takes advantage of. The Fox Tango 8 is such a DX mode. It can do scatter propagation relatively easily. So anyway, all part of the big smorgasbord of unusual forms of propagation that happens in the HF and lower VHF spectrum. They're alrighty. So now you can communicate to Kim there and ask some questions, I guess, if anybody's out there listening. K6YYL and any breakers, A630D. Oh, my goodness. So were you on 10 mainly? Okay. All right. So you open up the Brago de Anza Trail. Oh yeah. No, I was on 60 meters yesterday at 10 o'clock, and there was a very strong signal out of San Diego, a gentleman on down there. This is channel 4, 60 meters. And he was talking on a station over in Arizona. And then there was one other gentleman that was in Odessa, Texas. And he was running a Zygu G90 into an inverted V. Yeah, he was Q5S5. He wasn't terribly strong, but he was coming through late at night after 10 o'clock. So things were pretty stable that night for only 20 watts. You know, we were just running 20 watts and that far away on 60 meters. So the nighttime propagation, or what little nighttime propagation there is, in a sense, is getting better because the sun is getting close to the equinox here. what are we, 5 days away? 5 days away from the equinox. Even sunlight in the southern hemisphere or the northern hemisphere. And that's usually when we have the best transequatorial propagation, where it's kind of even on both sides. And so you can, the day's light is much brighter and longer and stable. And so you can work like South Africa early in the morning from where we are. And then noonish, around noon and on, you can work Chile and Argentina. And then in the late afternoon and evening, work Australia, New Zealand, and Indonesia. You know, it all follows the sun. Where the sun is the direction it's going to be open and with transequatorial, which is a weird form of propagation. It's up there in that F2 layer. But it's not F2, it's a multiple F2. It's F2 going to F2. Talk about multiple layers of propagation. Transequatorial is F2 to F2. So what happens is, it hits a spot north of the equator first that bends it enough that it then sails across the equator at a couple hundred miles up in the air, and then it hits another real dense ionized layer a few hundred miles south of the equator, and then that shoots it back down to the ground. So that means it jumps over everything at the equator, and that's why it ends up hitting South Africa, Chile, Argentina, New Zealand, Australia, Indonesia, and so forth and so on. So, and those kind of signals can be, as we go past the equinox, those kind of signals can last into the darkness. They can last up to about this time, as late as 10 o'clock in those directions. K6YYL, A650D. I don't think anybody has a real good handle on gray line. I've seen it on my polarimeter, and when we have gray line, what's unusually, Kim, is that it is pure circular. It goes into pure circular polarization. It's either totally clockwise or counterclockwise. And because it's circular, you end up with less QSB, and signals get stronger. The 3 dB is weaker than perfection, but they never get any weaker than that. And whereas when I looked at my polarimeter that I had designed up to look at the rotating wave, when you don't have gray line, you have the polarization is a oblong thing that can go linear left or linear right or linear horizontal or linear straight up and down or egg-shaped rotating. And it goes back and forth very rapidly, taking up a different position almost every tenth of a second, and just undulating all over the damn place. And that's normal propagation, actually. Like I say, nobody's ever documented all this before, but that's what it looks like. That's exactly what it looks like. That's and that's whatever is causing that perfection, and it's kind of perfection, is why it's so good. And of course, you could ask the opposite question. And we're in the deep, deep, deep theory here that what I'm telling you is not in most even textbooks or even college university classes on the subject matter. Why isn't the other propagation perfectly circular all the time? That's what most of the textbooks tell you it is, but they're not. So why are the textbooks wrong? And yet, so that's probably the real question someday. If somebody wants to work on trying to figure it out and measuring it, whereas the gray line is actually what all the theory says it should be like, and why the gray line is better. K6YYL A6ZDD.
Yeah, there's a AA6RF out here. Yeah, I want to disagree with Will here on a second, and I'm going to see if he'll change his mind. The textbooks say and show that gray line is when the D layer absorption is less, and that's why the signal levels go up. But I beg to differ on that. Toward gray line on 10 meter, there's very, very little D layer absorption, and all the properties that Will said are questionable in textbooks, but textbooks try to say that D layer absorption drops, and that's why the signals go up, and I beg to differ on that one.
Well, John, you got to realize that most of the textbooks are right on one ham band. Would you like to guess what ham band that these textbooks tend to be right about?
Yeah, on the low frequencies, but that's gray line happens on all frequencies, and so that, I mean, it's got to be right on all frequencies, or there's something hokey going on.
No, it's not replete enough. And yes, it's 160 meters. If you read the old textbooks, they are always correct for 160 meters. They're not even correct for 80, let alone 20 or 10, and sure to hell not for 6.
All right, and the rest of the stuff, I'll agree with Will. I mean, we've discussed this, Kim, in quite depth before, and the only thing I disagree with the textbooks is the D layer absorption, and in all cases, it does drop, but if it drops on 10 meter a half a dB, and your signals are enhanced 2 or 3 S units at gray line, there's something else going on. There's not that much D-layer absorption on the higher frequencies, but I'll stand on the side and let you two continue.
I know she's educating everybody on the web there, John. Go ahead.
Oh, you're on the YouTube channel right now, Kim? Yeah, this is AA6RF, and anything I say will not be held against me in the court of law. That's my disclaimer. But there's a lot of stuff in textbooks. There's gray areas, and it's just like when you're talking to kids when they're young, you tell them about Santa Claus and they believe it, and you tell them enough and they believe it. So a lot of the textbooks aren't correct, and it's just hard for somebody to jump up and say, "Hey, I beg to differ." I mean, because they're afraid of being stoned with pebbles. But in my case, I don't really care. So I'll say my piece, and forever else, I mean, they're just going to have to put up with it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, like I say, the trouble with teaching anything is you got to start someplace. And oftentimes you may say something that is not replete enough. You cannot dump the entire knowledge base on somebody at one time. They would collapse under the weight. And I don't care how smart they are. So you have to start somewhere and start with and you got to see, people have to go from studying theory to practice and actually do it and get on and measure it, and then you go back to the theory again and you study it in more detail and more depth, and then you go back again, and then like Kim says, there are even noises that you can use. Her washing machine noise, I don't recognize it, and I'm not sure what that is. That she, I think, has correlated with openings. But I can't tell you, I can hear solar flares when I'm at a low noise location, and a solar flare hits on 10 meters or 15 meters, or the extremely rare case that you ever hear one on 6. It sounds like the ocean rolling in. You hear a and all the signals go away. Like somebody threw a switch. And well, I know Kim has heard that. Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, well, that can happen, and Kim, the only way you're going to really be able to hear or see these phenomena happen is you got to be on the radio. If you're on the radio a lot, like Will and myself, you can hear that kind of stuff. If you're just on, like most people, once or twice a week for a half hour or 45 minutes, you're not going to be able to hear that kind of stuff. But when you're on all the time, and I mean, like today, we were on 60-meter net, and the net was real crummy. So I looked in the data, and bingo, we're having a flare. It started at 9:30, and the signal has dropped, and it was kind of crazy. And I mean, you can just sit back and say, well, hey, the ionosphere is doing something weird, or you can look up on some of these websites, and you can actually see, well, okay, they had a flare, and it was an M-class flare, 5.6, and we've got a plasma field in the North and South Pole, and when you get all this data and stuff, it makes it easy, but when you don't have anything to look at or nobody to tell you what's going on, it's just black magic.
Yeah. Well, that's like, no, John is grasped a lot of this stuff now and mastered a lot of it now, but, and no, we didn't try to dump it all on him at one time. He would have, I don't know, he would have ran off and we'd never seen him again. I mean, even when I told him about meteors burning, the ionized meteors burning and bouncing our signals off the meteor trails, he was thinking, this guy is either a flat earth crazy person or he's a genius.
Yeah, and through years and years of experiencing it and stuff, I mean, I had to turn around and I figured he's a genius because there's no other explanation besides UFOs, and I don't believe in that. So we've got meteor showers. In meteor showers, I thought they just burned and disintegrated and they were gone, but they're dust particles and they're ionized for a long period of time. So one meteorite can last, and I see it on FT8, they can last 3 or 4 minutes. And then if they have more than one meteor coming in back to back, well, then you have an opening.
Oh, yes, absolutely, for many years now.
Well, I've been experiencing it, but I didn't have the answer, and now I have the answer. And like Will said, at one time he was out in a dark sky, and he was actually able to see the meteor shower come in, and then there was a friend of his, Wayne, was making 2-meter contacts with these meteors. So every time there was a big burst, the signal level came up, and they were able. And so he was giving Wayne information. Okay, there's another flare, and Wayne made a contact. And I mean, just reading a textbook, you think, well, okay, maybe this guy needs to go to Bellevue that wrote the article. But then when you experience it and see it, the guys have fallen onto something, and it's for real. Yeah, those crazy people seem to congregate, and they hang around one another. So they give ideas, and the crazies feed the crazies, and that's how the inventions come about. Is somebody has an idea and put it to use. Let's see how I can duplicate the experiment, and when you can duplicate the experiment, you've discovered something. This isn't a wacky, crazy combo. This is kind of a normal conversation with Will and I. I mean, you know, when we get wacko, I mean, it's time to send the kids off to bed. All right, I'm going to get out of here. I'll let you two continue and discover the... I don't know if Will is... no, I'm not going to bring it up because it'll get off in a long conversation, and we don't... you need to stay focused. And the meteor showers is nice. Will, there was a sporadic E opening earlier today because I seen it on the Whisper. But it was weak. No single sideband stateside, but I did see some stuff. trans-equatorial and stateside on 6 meters. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and maybe that flare today had something to do with it. Who knows?
Yeah, Roger. Well, I've back when I was young and fast, like you say, when you have what we call a screaming blue zonker, where the meteor burns and then it can kind of die out, then it burns again and can die out, maybe as much as 3 times. And then it leaves a residual that 6 meters can utilize. And so even though the burn may be only a couple of seconds, the residual can actually last minutes, many minutes in some cases. But I had an unusual contact where the meteors were giving me about 5 seconds. It was about 5 or 6 seconds at the most. And when you were doing pure meteors, you just say S1, S2, or S3. That's a signal report. You don't do 5-9. You know, when you're doing really short meteors. When you have a shower and it's just open, period, from the shower just reinforcing each other, you can just use regular signal reports. But when you get lone meteors and lone openings, and then lots of silence in between, you just send an S1, S2, S3. And anyway, over that 6 seconds, I worked 3 stations simultaneously. And they were all like in Oklahoma and Texas. So you have to say, give all 3 calls. You give the call S1, give that call S2, next call the next S3. And then you hear them come back on top of each other, rogering, or giving you the S runs, and so that's my record, is 3 contacts over about 6 seconds on a single meteor burn. K6YYL, I can't do it anymore, of course, A6NDD. Yeah. What? You want me to say something so they hear it? I understand. What is it you want me to communicate to the person? Okay. Kim would like you to be able to hear her, and not just hear me talking to her. But the mic on the laptop is not functional, so the laptop microphone does not work, and therefore there's no way that you can hear her at the same time you're hearing me communicate to her. So you have to sort of make do with my monologues and not hear her responses. Such is life. Go ahead, Kim. All right. She wants you to know that the mic had been working, but it has recently stopped working. She says she will try to fix that whenever she has the time to do it. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll say good evening, and we'll have the AM roundtable tomorrow morning, 50.400 at 10 o'clock, your local time in greater Los Angeles. And so we have that. And then anybody on the web there, you come from anywhere, we'll have our 6-meter T hunt. Don't even have to be a licensed radio amateur. It'll be on April the 6th at 9:30 in the morning. Start at 9:30 here at my house. Just look up AA6DD anywhere, get the address, and come here to Riverside, Southern California next Saturday, or Saturday the 6th, that is, April the 6th. Not next Saturday, it's not that soon yet. And we'll have a wonderful time tea hunting for a few hours. It ends at noon within a 15-mile radius. Now, here's Big Boy is in here. What's he doing inside, Big Boy? He's a gentle giant. He's completely wild, but a gentle giant. He doesn't belong to anybody, and he doesn't belong to me. K6YYL, AA6DD. All right.
Yeah, and AA6RF clear, and thanks for the YouTube channel there, Kim. Yeah, you too. 73 is AA6RF clear.